Welcome to lesson 116, Intercepts in Point Slope Form. I'd like you to go ahead and take out your note packet and let's get started. Remember, if there's anything you have questions about in this or you didn't understand, you can go ahead and pause, rewind, and watch that part over, okay? Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. Intercepts. An intercept is where the graph of a function crosses or intersects an axis on the coordinate plane. In the two-dimensional coordinate system that we use, we have two intercepts. They are the x-intercept and the y-intercept. To find the x-intercept, all you do is you substitute 0 in for the y, then solve for x. So put 0 in for y and solve for x. To find the y-intercept, you're going to substitute 0 in for the x and then solve for y. Okay? Alright, so we're going to use this to work a couple of examples here. Okay, so let's, example 1, use the intercepts to sketch the graph. Alright, to do this, let's first find the x-intercept. To find the x-intercept, remember, we're going to put in 0 for y. So I have 3x plus 5 times 0, which is just going to be 0 equals 15. So what that tells me, that crosses out, and I have 3x equals 15. If I divide both sides by 3, I get x equals 5. Alright, so that's where my first point's going to be on my graph, is at x equals 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, now let's do our second one. Let's find the y-intercept. The y-intercept, I'm going to put in a 0 for x. So I have 3 times 0 plus 5y equals 15. So that's just 5y equals 15. So divide by 5, divide by 5, and get y equals 3. So I'm going to put a point now where on the y-axis at 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay? And now all I do is simply draw a line through those 2 points on my graph. And that is the line of my graph. Fix that there. Okay? Right, now you take a moment and see if you can work through example 2. Go ahead and pause the video and work it out, and then turn it back on when you get ready to check your answer. Okay, so when you plug in 0 for y, you get x equals -4. Plug in 0 for x, you get y equals 2. So I'll plot those points on the x-axis and the y-axis. -4 on the x-axis, 2 on the y-axis. Hope you did well. Let's go ahead and move on now to point-slope form of a linear equation. Okay, point-slope form of a linear equation is written as y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. That's the equation, so make sure you write that equation in your notes. Okay? And we're going to talk about what m and x1 and y1 are. M, if you'll remember, we refer to as slope. When we write it as an m, that's generally in mathematics what we call slope. And x1 and y1 is a point that is on the line. Okay? Now, so all you need to write an equation in point-slope form is the slope and a point on the line. We'll substitute the slope in for m, and we'll substitute the point of the line, the x, in for x1, and the y in for y1. And then we'll have it written in point-slope form. Okay, so let's go ahead and try an example. Look at an example. Alright, example number 3. Write the equation of the line that passes through the given points. Alright, now let's go back to the last slide for just a second. If we don't have the slope, down here it says if we don't have the slope, then use 2 points in the line to find the slope first, like you did in 1-14. Okay? So now we go back. So I don't have the slope, but I do have 2 points. So if you remember slope, to find that, that's the change in y over the change in x. Alright? So I'll subtract the y's. I'll do I'll do negative 2, that's y2, subtract 5 over negative 5, subtract a negative 3, which turns into adding a 3. And when I work that out, I get negative 7 over negative 2, which is just positive 7 over 2. So now I have the slope 7 over 2, and I'm going to just use the first point or the second point, whichever I want to, and put it into my equation. Alright, so remember it's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Alright, my slope is 7 over 2, so I'm going to put that in for m. I'm going to put negative 3 in for my x1. I'm going to put 5 in for my y1. So my equation is going to look like this. Y minus 5 equals 7 over 2 times x minus my x1 is negative 3. So when I write that, I'll actually write this as plus 3. Okay? Alright? I hope that made sense to you. Let's go on and try example 4. Okay, here's example 4. Why don't you try this one on your own? Notice that it does not have the slope, so you have to find the slope first, and then use either of the points. It doesn't matter which one. I prefer to use the first point, and go ahead and write the equation in point slope form. Okay? When you get your answer, go ahead and turn the video back on and see how you did. Okay, check and see how you've done. The slope was 1, and when you plug that first equation, the first order pair in with a 1, you got y minus 5 equals 1 times x minus 4. If you would have plugged in the 7 and the 8, here you would have had y minus 8, and here you would have had x minus 7. Either way. Okay? Alright, now let's go ahead and move on to parallel and perpendicular lines. A quick review. If you'll remember from Algebra 1 that parallel lines have the same slope, and the perpendicular lines have slopes that are opposite signs. So they're opposite signs, and the reciprocals reciprocals mean that if one of them is 1/3, the other one is 3 over 1. We just flip the fraction. So if one of them is 2, the other one, remember I got to make it 2 over 1, so the other one is 1/2. Okay? And we'll use this to help us solve the last two examples. Example 5 says to write an equation in slope-intercept form for a line that is parallel to y equals 3x minus 1 and passes through -2 and 3. So we have a point and we need another point or the slope. Well, if you'll remember, since the lines are parallel, they have the same slope. And if you remember in this equation, y equals 3x minus 1, the slope is the number, when I have it in y equals mx plus b, the slope is that number that's multiplied by the x. So our slope is 3. So I'll use 3, I'll use -2 for my x, and I'll use this 3 for my y. So let's go ahead and write the equation. So I have y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So I'll plug in the 3 for my m, and then I have x minus, and I'll plug in that negative 2 for my x1, so it's going to make this x plus 2. And over here I'll go y minus, and I'll plug in that 3 for my y. Now it says we want it in slope-intercept form, so this kind of looks like slope-intercept form. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and solve this equation and get y by itself. Okay, so I'll distribute the 3 and make that 3x plus 3 times 2 is 6 equals y minus 3. Now I got to get rid of this minus 3 by adding 3 to both sides. I'll add 3 over here because that's what it goes with, and those cancel out, and I'm left with y equals 3x plus 9, and that's my equation in slope-intercept form. This was my equation in point slope, so I've got it both ways. Okay, let's go ahead and take a moment, and you go ahead and work example. I'm going to work example 6 for you since it's a perpendicular one. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, example 6 says write an equation in slope-intercept form for a line that is perpendicular to this line now. Okay, so if you'll remember, perpendicular means their slopes are opposites and reciprocal. The slope for this line is 3, so the opposite of that would be negative. And the reciprocal, I'll make this 3 over 1, the reciprocal will be 1/3. So that's what my slope is going to be in my new equation. There's my x, there's my x1, and there's my y1, and there's my slope. So let's go ahead and plug this in. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Alright, so we'll plug in what we know. We're going to plug in the negative 1/3 in for m. Okay, we're going to plug in the negative 12 for my x, so it's x minus negative 12, which makes it x plus 12. And then over here, I'm going to plug in the 4 for my y1, so I got y minus 4. Now I want you to take just a moment and see if you can work this out. And when you get done, go ahead and pause the video, and then when you get done, start the video over and see how you finish. Okay, we start by distributing the 1/3, the negative 1/3, so I get negative 1/3 x, and then what? 1/3, negative 1/3 times 12. Gotta make it 12 over 1. Multiply the tops and get negative 12. The bottom get 3, and that reduces to negative 4. So we have minus 4 here. On this side, we got y minus 4. Alright, now the next step is to add 4 to both sides. Add 4 to both sides, and look what happens here. We get y equals, those canceled, and those also cancel. That's a coincidence this time. Negative 1/3 x. If you want to put plus 0, you can, but you don't have to. Okay, I hope that review reminds you of what you were doing in Algebra 1 with this point slope form and intercepts and parallel and perpendicular lines. Right now I need you to go ahead and complete your whisk and get that turned in, and we'll see you in class.